Welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host, Steve Mantis, and my guest today is Frances Wesley from the Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center and the People's Indigenous Court Coordinator. Mm-hmm. So Frances, we were talking about a little bit of the history of how this program came to be, and the courthouse was just under construction, and so we started in 2010,
Yep.
working away. A new courthouse is getting built, and where did it go from there?
Well, they looked at various reports in regards to the number of Aboriginal people going before the system, and I think the conversation about having a Gladue court within the system was talked about in the development of the new building. So they built the Aboriginal Conference Settlement Suite. That's what they had named it. It's a beautiful courtroom, and it's in a circular shape. And so they got to that far, and they constructed this room when they were building the consolidated courthouse. So it's a beautiful room that was previously used by, or still is being used by, the Friendship Center and Anishinaabe Nation Legal Services to do their diversion programs in that courtroom. So the Friendship Center took on the lead to develop the Indigenous Peoples Court along and asked Anishinaabe Nation if they would, or the legal services, if they would want to participate in bringing the conversation back to the community. And we had a conference back in March of 2015, and they talked about Gladue reports and some of the challenges they were having with it, and kind of working out some of the finding solutions on how to better smooth the reporting kind of system. And while at the same time talked about moving forward in developing a framework for Indigenous Peoples Courts. So they asked me if I would be interested in doing that for them. So it's been 2 years now, almost 2 years. And the first year we just looked at implementation. We visited some of the courts that were mentioned earlier in Brantford and in Toronto. We visited the Gladue courts there. We went to did a lot of research, and we also visited the new Westminster Court in BC. Mm-hmm. It's a First Nation Indigenous court. And so we took some of the ideas from those courts and developed a model for delivery here in Thunder Bay. We kind of recommended the model in New Westminster because they incorporate the elders in the courtroom. They play such an integral part in the healing journey for the clients that they work with. And in this courtroom, like I said, designed by Native people, or Anishinaabe people, and we incorporate our traditions within the courtroom. So I had mentioned earlier, Steve, when we were driving here, you know, how it's kind of like a pyramid hierarchy within the mainstream court. And the judge talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer talks to the judge, and the client is kind of boxed in. And it's kind of a foreign concept to them when we started having a conversation, say, look, Indigenous Peoples Court, we will all sit in a circle. So you're breaking down all these barriers,
right,
and you're bringing them together, which may have been a little bit fearful to some of the people we work with, some of our stakeholders. And, you know, I understand, you know, some of the challenges we've had to go through in developing this court, but we educated one another. We have, we talked about some of the various issues around smudging maybe, or traditional ways, how we walk into the room, and about saying the prayers, and like, do we do it before the court starts? Do we do it while the court is going on? So there's a lot of questions that we had to talk about, you know, try to work through, and getting them to understand why it's meaningful for us in our healing, why we need our medicines to help us in our journey. and how it would help the individual that comes before the court, and even changing our language, because when it's in the mainstream court, it's accused, you're a criminal.
Right.
But in this court, you're a person, you're an individual who has issues, and we want to help that individual address their issues. And we need the support of elders, we need the support of our community to help that individual become that person that we want that person to be who they are before they came into the courts.
So, it's interesting because I'm not sure if other people kind of share my perceptions. Court, we usually think of is you're guilty or not guilty, and then that's the end of it. But really, this program is picking up at that point where people are saying, I am guilty, and now we're talking about that rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And I've heard the term restorative justice.
Yes.
So instead of just saying we're going to punish you for this, the question is, how do we help you get better? So that you become a better person and more productive in society.
Yeah.
Am I on the right track there?
That's true. At the beginning of the court, their first appearance within the Indigenous Peoples Court is that the judge will talk to the client and say, okay, how can you help yourself through your journey in healing? That's devising the healing plan. It could be that I'm going to, alcohol has been a major factor in my life that's ruining my life, so I need to get help to address my alcohol issue or my drug issue. I need support from the community to help me get there, and I don't know where to find those supports. So we have hired an Indigenous Peoples Court caseworker who will work with that individual to find the resources he or she needs in their journey. Now we understand, or we know, that it's not easy to get into an alcohol drug treatment because it's always full, there's long waiting lists. So in the meantime, we're trying to devise plans and working with that individual, attend AA meetings, or go visit an elder every week, talk to them about your issues. We can set them up with elders in the community. We can set them up with some of the programs that we have here in Thunder Bay, set them up with that, like the Friendship Center has drum circles once a month, for people who want to learn how to hand drum. And, there's a lot of organizations here in Thunder Bay that do those kinds of things. And drug assessments, alcohol assessment. So we can do all that to help that individual. Then we can go back to the court and say, okay, Your Honor, here's what I've done. I've applied to go to school, and here's my papers. You got to prove that you've done it. You can't just say it. You got to bring papers to say, here's a letter from the Friendship Center, and that I have attended healing circles or drum circles, and get signed off, and it becomes evidence, I guess, for they keep it on file at the court that this person, is working towards their healing plan. It could take up to a year, right?
Okay.
Depends on the individual.
In terms of the plan, or in terms of the process to get to their approved plan?
No, in terms of their healing plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to take a short break.
Okay.
Please stay with us, and we'll be right back.